In the past few months, I've been meeting other interesting people on the continent, all of them talking about that dream that the founding fathers, and I should say mothers, of the continent had when Africa was getting independent from colonialism. And many of them were thinking of a united Africa, of someday just being what we really were right from the beginning, brothers and sisters, with no boundaries. You could go from one place to another and it was okay. So what could we possibly do to get back to those glory days? And they really believed that that dream would someday be possible. I was speaking with somebody yesterday who said that they were thinking of founding an institute called the Tom Mboya Institute, because Tom Mboya, who's a Kenyan, was one of the founding members of the country, helped write the Constitution of Kenya. And he was a Pan-African, not just in Africa, but he would travel to Washington, DC, be on the same podium as Martin Luther King and talk about a united Africa, no matter where you were in the world. These are people who had that dream. And it's possible for us to entertain that dream because there is that one principle, which no matter where you go in Africa, you're going to find it. And that's that principle, that belief, that value of Ubuntu, that I am because you are. When you talk about the law, when you even talk about morality, there are all kinds of bases that you could come up with. You know, what is the foundation of morality, of what is right and wrong? And of course, there are many theories about it, that depending on the consequences of your action, it would be good or bad, depending on who it affects. You know, it could be consequentialism. You could talk about something that is God-given, a God-given law. You could talk of natural law. It's in you somehow. But in Africa, we have this way of expressing it. You know, I'm nothing if I'm not with you. I am because you are. We are together. And so once we accept that basic principle, then rights can be drawn from that. You can see that it's important for me to respect this and that in your life, and for you to do the same and reciprocate in my life, because our lives are intrinsically tied to each other. Ubuntu is a real thing. And this topic keeps haunting me. I don't know if that happens to many of you, where something pops into your head and no matter where you go, it keeps coming up in conversations, in articles you read. It's as if that week, that idea is pursuing you and you see it everywhere. So this whole idea of morality and the foundation of morality, I've been looking at it for the past 1 month, and a video that I watched and listened to by Robert Barron talking about morality. He was looking at how it's evolved and how in the modern world that we live in, we're drifting more and more towards relativism, where anything goes. You know, what I think is good for me, that's what I'm going to go for. It's my truth. You can have your truth. As long as I respect your truth, you should respect my truth. But then it's getting more and more relative until it gets to ridiculous points where somebody's insisting on rights they don't have, which would exclude other people's rights. And that would never happen if you had the system of Ubuntu. You know, it would never happen, because at no point would I consider my life so independent of everyone else and assert myself so much to the exclusion of everyone else. That would never happen in Africa. We could never become relativists if we embraced Ubuntu, because our lives are tied together. And another thing that Robert Barron said is, in a sense, the way the modernists look at morality is a departure from the ancient Greeks. If you look at Aristotle and how he understood causality, that's where all this comes from. So Aristotle talked about material cause, formal cause, instrumental cause, and final cause. And then according to the modernists, the only things they believe in are the material cause and maybe the instrumental cause. They're not going to look at formal cause. They don't want structures. They don't want anything that is telling them what to do. So they want to run away from that. They want to assert that quote unquote freedom that they believe everyone should have, and no structures should restrict them. And so in a modern context, people want to run away from structures. I don't want any formalism. I don't want any formal cause that I have to deal with. So I can study matter, I can study things, I can study how things are done, the instrumental cause. But when it comes to a final cause, the purpose for which things are, when it comes to formal causes, what gives a certain structure to things, they don't want to deal with that. They assert the quote unquote right to not be controlled by any structures, to not have any predetermined purpose that they are living for. That desire to self-determine is so strong that they claim the ultimate right to determine themselves in whichever way, devoid of any purpose imposed on them by anybody, not a religion, not a society, not an ideology, nobody, total freedom, unrestricted freedom. And again, that couldn't possibly happen in Africa, because we realize that claiming such freedom would mean detaching ourselves from the others and not caring about the others. The only person who matters is myself. And so I invite you to see the connection between what we believe in, what is in Ubuntu, and what even wise people, indisputably wise people like Aristotle saw, millennia ago, that in fact, there is a common purpose that all of us are working towards. There are certain structures that we've got to obey and which actually make our lives better because our lives are intertwined. So I'd be interested to know how far you go in this conference. You are building the foundation for what might then grow to be this Pan-African movement that the founders of the continent thought about, and even before them, the way people lived. We're just going back to how it was, but we have to do it in a formal way. We have to make explicit all these rules and principles that are hidden in that magical word, Ubuntu. So I wish you all a fantastic time as you go through this conference. And it is my pleasure and honor to declare it, for those of you online and those of you in the room, officially open. All the best.
Thank you, Dr. Vincent. Kindly wait, because we'd like to gift you on behalf of Strathmore and on behalf of all of us attending the Ubuntu Congress. We'd like to gift you this small token. Yes. Can we all give him a hand?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Without further ado, we'll begin.